This Week in Fish and Wildlife, sponsored by your local Montana Toyota dealers.
Thursday morning time once again for This Week in Fish and Wildlife. We're on the road. We're at BANNACK. Joining us this morning, Mark and Sharon Brown. I feel like I'm a little underdressed for our interview here this morning, Mark. Let's talk about your attire and how that all fits in with this event coming up on Saturday, or starting on this Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Well, Montana History Live Incorporated is a educational group. We were brought in 6 years ago. This will be our 7th Living History Interpretation program. It'll be 4 days. The Thursday and Friday we have schools bringing field trips in. It's basically, we go back to 1862. And we'll be in a tent city where the finding of the gold was, our first year was the 150th anniversary of when John White came from Colorado and found gold in Grasshopper Creek behind us. And we'll have about 40 interpreters here that'll be doing first-person interpretation, and it's a day in the life of Bannack. So the visitors that come can expect to be able to travel back in time. It is possible.
Let's make no mistake about this. This isn't just something that you're in costume. When you say interpretate, that you've put some time into putting together your character, who you're going to be. And when we come here, it's going to be as close as you could be unless you actually did go back in time.
It's heavily researched, and our docents come from 7 different states. They come here. Most of them are experienced, either retired from or currently working with the National Park Service. And there's a lot of fidelity when it comes to trying to be accurate. And just come and expect to be able to go back in time. That's our goal.
Perfect. I'm going to turn to Sharon for a minute. That really makes this work, doesn't it? If folks come in here, once you leave the car, leave that mindset, leave the 21st century, and get yourself into character, makes it a lot easier and a lot more fun for you folks too, doesn't it?
You bet. It's a lot of fun talking with the kids, and they're answering the questions, and they'll get to see all kinds of different trades being performed. I'm the dressmaker, so they can come in and order some clothing from me, and yep.
Why do you do this, Sharon? I mean, there's so many other things you could be doing over that long period of time instead of coming out here. You've spent so much time already working to research how this is going to be, making it authentic as possible. Why do you do it?
Because we love history. We've been doing this for 40 years now, and my husband traveled a lot with the Coast Guard, so we were able to experience a lot of different history from a lot of different parts of the country. But you put it together and you see the kids, and it's not like they're reading something out of a book anymore. They're actually experiencing it, and you see it click. And
it must be fun because it's got to be different every time. I mean, literally every little group that comes through, it's a different experience for you as well.
You bet.
You obviously enjoy what you're doing.
Very, very much so.
That's perfect. Again, Mark, just give us the nuts and bolts of when this is going to be so folks can make some plans to come over here to Bannack.
Sure. From 9 to 5. Each day except Sunday, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On Sunday, it'll be from 10 until 2. Sunday would be, this is a day in the life, so it's not like we rinse and repeat. You know, when you come, you'll see, just like if you got off the stage, you would see something. If you come another day, you'll see something else, and we'll be busy doing something else. We do have a period church service on Sunday. That is in the Methodist Church down here that was dedicated in 1877. So that's a pretty unique, and that's a one-time thing, as many of our things are going to be.
All right, you drove in a car. You got here in a car. You're going to be here for a period of days a little further back in time. What's that like for you after you've spent a couple of days doing this?
Well, that's what we constantly, those that are immersed in this, or obsessed, some would say, we're always seeking that time travel, you know, and you get these seconds that you actually feel as if you've achieved that, and that's the payback for us. Education is important, but we're in it for ourselves too, and we're able to go back in time, and that we're just always hoping for that to happen. It always happens in Bannack. Bannack's magic.
I was going to say, Sharon, that's one of the priceless things about where we are right here today is you can do that at any time. You folks don't have to be here. I'm able to do that at any time you come to Bannack.
Exactly. There's so much here to experience and to see and to look inside the buildings, and you can get an idea of what it was like for them to come here and have nothing when they got here, and living in tents, and gradually the city grew.
That's fantastic. Again, Mark and Sharon Brown joining us this morning in This Week in Fish and Wildlife. We're in Bannack, a chance for you to travel back in time this weekend.
This Week in Fish and Wildlife was brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places.